Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tyler. I am a producer and environment artist, and artist, I guess, in general at this point, for Camelot Unchained. This is Tim. He's our IT specialist. You saw that coming, didn't you?
I did.
And
Go get yours.
we're here to give the update for the week. All right, so Max informed me one of the most obvious things we need to address is SNS testing. Right now, we're not planning on having a test this weekend. We can talk plenty more about that. We're trying to get to, we basically made a list of things that we need to get done before it is even going to give us any more feedback from players. We need to actually make sure that we hit some of the performance issues we're having. We need to make sure that players are actually spawning correctly in the right places, that simply shooting someone doesn't make the server crash, any number of already known issues that we've already been working through. And we've been doing daily iterations. Usually at around 5:30 our time, we'll do a play test with bug fixes from the previous day, and we've just been kind of keeping a nice good cadence of that going. But it's not worth bringing players in until we get rid of the things we already know that are big issues, because if we bring it in, you guys won't have as much fun, and you'll just kind of, it won't be worth your time, and it won't be worth our time at this point yet.
Well, yeah, and let's hit on that a little bit more. Like, we know there are a lot of you guys out there that are itching to get in on this. A lot of you guys that are more than willing to see stuff in horrible, broken spots, and you're even excited to see stuff that's horrible and broken. A lot of this stuff is at such a rapid pace of iteration that it's literally like a bunch of us in the office on voice chat going, hey, this thing broke, take 2 seconds to break, fix it, get back in there, such that adding anyone who doesn't have instantaneous voice communication with us would actually slow the process down. And also there's a lot of really subtle stuff that we're doing here, that having someone who isn't communicating with us at that level could actually gum up some of the metrics that we're getting. So there's no secret sauce here that we're hiding. There's nothing we're trying to keep from you. We know that you're more than willing to jump in when stuff is broken. We're trying to get it past the stage of there's all these little nuanced things into a stage where you guys can start telling us either here's the stuff that we've missed because it wasn't immediately obvious because we've been doing some of the same stuff over and over again, or here's what's fun, here's what isn't as fun, here's what feels good. And so we're trying to get past a lot of the low-hanging fruit that's just going to sort of be noise unless you're right here with us.
Yeah, the last playtest was a good example where we were all trying to figure out what the performance issue was, and I think it was because people were randomly taking the plot, and we were like, we need to turn the plot off because people were running through the center and taking the, starting that process.
We might need some help from the IT specialist. It's the internet connection is slow and red, and people are having buffering problems.
I'm gonna go look. We were having internet problems yesterday. Give me 2 seconds.
That's what it looks like.
Motherfucker.
As you may know, this is a mature stream.
Should I bring it down for now, or?
No. We can hang out a sec. So we've got 18 items today. Actually, kind of more than that, because I broke Scott's stuff up. Still showing up red?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you wiggled your cable there. And it's not a euphemism either.
I'm gonna replace that cable.
Back to where you were on testing.
So, yeah. I don't know if we want to recap that whole thing, but the TLDR is we know we've had hatchery turned off to IDs for a while. We have regular discussions about that inside. We want to get you guys back in just as much as you guys want to get back in. And it's not just about it being broken. It's about us iterating on this as quickly as possible so that we can get it into beta as quickly as possible, but also get it to you guys in a way where the feedback that you give us won't just be noise because it's something that we've already fixed or something that's already on our radar, or that you're not tightly in our loop of testing such that just your presence there can actually cause some weirdness with some of the stuff we've been digging on lately. So we want to get it to a place where it may still be broken, just broken in a way that your feedback is useful to us and helps get this out sooner rather than later. So there's no secret sauce. There's nothing nefarious here.
Yeah.
We want to get it to a place where it's fun for us, it's fun for you, it's useful for us, and it's useful for you.
Yeah, and we're still hoping for next week. I've got that literally in the top 10 item here. It's the first one. That's the goal is next week. We'll do our best to get there. Okay. You want to just start reading through these?
Well, I can start reading through them.
Why don't you start reading
through
through
tech?
Okay, go for it.
Well, before you start, I just wanted to point out that there are 18 top 10-ish items.
Yeah.
It's consistently closer to top 20-ish.
Well, yeah. Well, last time I did that. Well, yeah. And see, we've got 18, and this one's got 4 sub items.
Yeah.
So we're getting closer to last time I did this, we had 23. It was 19. Or it was like 15 with 8 sub items.
And like we try and do, sometimes even if it's a small thing, it might be worthy of a highlight.
Yeah.
So this doesn't actually include everything that's being worked on.
It's not about
some
scope.
of the things I did.
Some of it is about the scope, how much work went into it, and some of it is just about how cool it is or the fallout for you guys. So we'll just start off with this. First thing, as we were talking about...
You almost literally just talked about this.
Tech rapid iteration. Immediately after the first iteration of Playable Deathmatch on Saturday Night Sieges, we started daily playtesting. Not only great for finding and fixing bugs, but it's fun, which is part of the goal. Most recently, we've been focusing on tracking down a performance issue, preventing us from opening up hatchery to IT backers. We've got some good leads, and we're hoping to reopen it to IT next week. So this is all the same thing we just talked about. We're hitting stuff fast. We're getting lots of rapid changes in there. We've even been talking about with some of the left coasters. We've got a pretty good continuous integration system where we can push code and it hits the server in a matter of minutes. Speeding that up just because some of that was even slowing down how quickly we could get tests around potential fixes. So there's been a lot of discussion about how we improve that and how we can speed up deploying and all that whole process.
Right.
So that, again, that's part of the reason we haven't let you guys in, is just because it's going so fast. Number 2. Tech.
This one's fun.
Yeah. We'll talk about how these things are related. I don't know if it's in here, but
yeah. So a lot of the top 10 items you'll notice are all SNS related, but SNS is kind of a subset of Beta 1 and a lot of
it's an overarching theme.
Right.
Now.
Right.
Colin recently made some additions to our NPCs so that they now have melee behaviors and can be added to teams on Saturday Night Sieges. Our first iteration supports buttons for admins and the scenario dev UI where we can add NPCs to specific teams. This allows us to quickly balance teams even when we're doing quick testing in the office. Next up, we're giving them archery behaviors, making them stronger while relatively simple at this stage, allies in battle. So the first thing we noticed was we started up one of the SNSs and or scenarios, and threw a bunch of NPCs in there and hopped in, and they just all
killed everybody.
All of them beelined on whoever logged in first and just melee trained the shit out of them.
They're all fairly simple at this point. I don't think I've even talked to Colin about it, but you'll see them head towards the center and butt against the wall, try and find a way around it. And the funny part was I was at the corner of the keep, and they were doing this, trying to find each other, and I was just waiting, and they got around to the corner and then just started all fighting each other. And then of course you're sitting there like, oh cool, they're killing each other and stuff, and then
then you realize you're
next, and then 3 of them will turn on
and they don't give up, by the way.
Yeah, they just come right at you.
They are relentless. yeah, so that's been fun. It's been a great addition to some of our testing, just because, again, part of the stuff that you guys will have some of the feedback on. Some of the stuff we want to get fixed before we expose it to you is there isn't any like auto balance right now. So if your realm's imbalanced, it's sort of a shitty experience. And so right now we can just add NPCs in, and they'll you stick with the melee train and you'll do pretty okay. And then once we get the archer train in there, you'll do pretty okay with him too.
You just don't want to be on the wrong side of the map.
Earlier, like we were doing one, and I managed to like lock onto Christine, and I saw the train heading for her, and just started shooting arrows into the sky in her general direction, and just over the TV heard, "Oh God, who's shooting me?"
Yeah. So one of the things we're going to be laughing and stuff. Part of the fun part about this is we're actually beginning to see like some of these pieces to come together, and we can actually start working on the fun. I mean, we're still going through a lot of the tech, a lot of the tools that we need. We're still going through, we still need more functionality for the full scope of all of this. But we're already having fun shooting at each other and juking and dodging, and as more things come on, it just helps us find the fun.
Yeah.
But
and the flip side of that is earlier today we've got a performance issue that we're trying to track down. That's one of our main headlines for, we got to get through this before we bring you guys in.
It's not like a tiny little thing. It was,
it
was bad.
Well, and we turned on some extra tools to help track it down, and those tools made the performance even worse.
Yeah.
And so we all hopped on there and then like started running towards the keep that you fight over, and then just lagged for literally 30 seconds.
The good thing
and then the lag stopped, and we're all dead in the ocean.
Yeah, the good thing is things this big are usually fairly obvious to find. Yeah. I mean, we're at a point where the engine is fantastic. George has some more changes coming in. Andrew has some more changes
is that
coming
on
in.
here?
No, we actually...
performance stability improvements, maybe?
That's George.
Okay.
No, that makes me think, shit, should this be the top 19? I'll have to talk with Andrew.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Andrew's got a whole bunch of different performance improvements from some stuff we were working on last week that like all individually were really good improvements, and then we put them all together and they just didn't play nicely together. So he's working on sort of getting that last little piece so that we can get the whole shebang in there, but that's some really exciting stuff on the server. That's not in this list, so that's our highlight on that, and we'll see if it makes it into the email later.
Yeah, I think I'm just waiting to see. He's had a lot of oversight lead responsibilities, and I don't know if there's something to report by the end of today.
Right. So number 3, progression and scenarios. Christine has been extending the progression system to account for participation in Saturday Night Sieges. Once a round is over, we track important information like how many characters were on each team, which team won, and the score of each team? Not time? What was the score of each team?
Score of each team, yes.
And how did
Max hasn't seen this yet. You can't get him this time.
And how did each player contribute? As players participate in epic battles, we want to ensure that they're rewarded with their efforts, complete with bragging rights. So there's sort of two parts of this. One is like progression is just fun, right? You can say like, yeah, I got 60 kills in the last scenario, and there's some fun bragging rights there. But also it lets us start vetting some of the progression system stuff earlier rather than later, and we can start getting a feel.
Yeah,
for that.
there's two parts. One is the actual game and player or backer participation. Tracking that you guys are helping us test, but the other part is testing progression.
Yeah. Performance/stability improvements after spending some time moving our Windows messages to their own thread, which last time I was on here we talked about. But the TLDR there is just making it so that Windows chatting with our client doesn't interfere with the performance of the client. After spending some time working on that, George took another turn down the performance path and is updating our input code to also run on its own thread. Not only does this give us performance improvements, but it'll eventually pave the way for cool things in the future, easier to use client-side input, updated key bindings, and more responsive input. So anybody who's like logged in and tried to like do anything with any of the UI widgets and watched your control like jump around, stuff like that's going to get better. There's another thing on top of that we're not talking about yet that will also improve that. But that sort of thing of just like missing keystrokes or laggy input, a lot of that's going to get better. Siege engine updates.
That's still Matt. Or Tech, sorry.
Yes. As we continue to work on Saturday Night Sieges, siege engines and their ammo continually get a little TLC. This week, Matt is working on making sure players can't start controlling another engine when they are already controlling one.
Yeah.
As well as removing your control when you've distanced yourself enough away.
Yeah, so one of the fun things about the play tests, I mean, it's a bit of finding the obvious bugs and also finding the like UX side of things, you know, like how do players interact with these. The minute we're playing with it and we're like, you know, some guy's coming after me to kill me, I'm like, I can't get this UI up fast enough to hit the button to reload my Scorpion. Things like that come to the front.
Is this a thing where you could like auto run away while controlling the siege engine and like
no,
shoot
that got fixed a little while ago. This was
okay.
like I reported a bug where I put the Scorpion down to test some of the VFX. I was still using it, and then I entered the scenario, and I had entered the scenario, but my screen stayed at the Scorpion, and my guy was gone.
Good.
And then when I logged out and logged back in, my guy was stuck as like he was trying to pilot the Scorpion, and the Scorpion was over here. So that was an interesting one.
Okay. Emotes. Brad and Scott implemented all our existing emote assets this week. It took advantage of the new ability system and the animation system, making it easier to hook up. Players can now wave, bow, curtsy, point, and nod to one another. With tech in place, we can easily add other emotes to the future. So real quick, because folks are just going to be like, well, you know, why can't your emotes, they're just animations, why is this a difficult thing? We've got, and I talked about it a little bit before when we started working on emotes, is that we also want some subtle gameplay stuff tied to some of the emotes where, like, if you sit into a chair, you can't move or walk or you know, do certain categories of things, or maybe, like, you can't do an attack while you're waving because your hand is busy. So we're putting some little, like, sort of flavor into the emotes that make them need to be aware of some parts of the ability system. And so they're just sort of more interesting than your vanilla emotes, and so it's taken just a little bit longer to get them right.
Brad asked me to have James make some emote icons because technically in the future you should be able to build an ability that is a series of emotes.
Oh yeah, once we start getting some of the combos
point,
and
come
stuff.
On, you know, angry, whatever.
Oh man, there's gonna be emote combos. They're gonna be like dance moves.
Yeah, and right now, so just so we're all on the same page about emotes, we're taking a bunch of assets created like a year ago. Some of the assets need some love. They started from old positions. So that's all on our radar. So if you guys go in there and be like, why does he look funny when he nods? Well, we know that. Those are things that we're going to work on. Plus, I've got a conversation lined up with Andrew and Brad just to look at ways to smooth out transitional animations so that you go from whatever position you are in into playing your emote doesn't look like a pop, which is very common in most games. So for now, it works. Most people are going to expect to see that, but we've got plans to kind of smooth that out later.
Number 7, deflection. Both deflect and block use the same system, but are implemented differently. Brad is hooking up the animations to play the correct time based on the passive deflect ability from the weapons. This will make use of all the previously completed animations. After that, he'll work on the active block ability. So some of this goes into gameplay, and if you want to know the specifics
and
about
server stuff
about block and deflect, that's a good question for when Vin is on one of these.
Right.
The TLDR is they both sort of deflect and block basically tie into the same system, and one of them is sort of a passive mechanic, and one of them is sort of an active mechanic. We've got the passive mechanic in, and so we're hooking animations up to it in anticipation of working on the active mechanic later on. So we're getting the animations hooked up now.
Yeah, and this is a bit of an uphill or a learning experience for Brad as well, because this also is client server prediction for what frame we're going to like play the deflect up, predicting when you're going to get hit and everything. So he's got quite a big task here actually.
This is the last tech one, right? Yeah. Number 8, updating MongoDB drivers. Bull has been diligently working to get our Mongo database drivers to a more recent version. By updating, we get easier ways to talk to the database. We get to use... so there's a whole category of stuff.
Yeah, I knew you were going to start just... You're in this.
I've been working with the guys a lot on this. The TLDR on this is our database backend has come very far since we started working on this project. And just because we'd sort of pushed the envelope on it a whole lot and we're using it in lots of interesting and clever ways, such that it was a really big feat for us to migrate to updated versions of the software. And so we started talking about that process, and then we ended up in the crunch for beta, and so we delayed it because we didn't want to delay beta. And then that rolled into rehab, and then that rolled into one thing after another, and so we sort of kept pushing this back, and it just got harder and harder to do it every time we pushed it back. So we finally bit the bullet, started the process. It's really close to landing, and there's a whole bunch of cool new features that we get out of it.
Why are we doing it?
Mostly, you won't see a lot of it on the client, but in terms of the way the server works with stuff, it just allows us to do more, talk to the database both faster, more responsive, less impact on like game loops stuff, and always any kind of these updates also come with security updates and stuff like that. So it's getting more secure, it's getting more performant, it's getting less fallout in game logic. It's just something that's needed to happen for a long time, and we're doing it, and it's fantastic. So now it's art stuff. Do your thing, Nick.
Art stuff. Okay. So you'll notice a lot of the art stuff is. I thought you ate them all.
I know. That's why I said.
Well, okay. So well, it's my turn now. You can go grab yourself a handful of sugar and gelatin if you need it. Okay, so you'll notice a lot of these things are more specifically based around SNS. One of my focuses right now with the artist right now is trying to glue all the pieces together, do reviews and iterations on things. The SNS is a nice way for us to kind of take a small chunk of all the beta 1 things and put a little bit more refinement on it. I'm hoping you guys are aware, as we typically iterate these things often, just so you're on the same page as us, we did a very fast VFX pass, we did a very fast animation pass, and we did a very fast sound pass on a lot of the abilities. What that meant was it allowed us to test things sooner, it allowed us to debug some things sooner, but it kind of left us without like that cohesive kind of feel on some of these things. So what I've been doing is, you'll see that in these items, is working with different people to get new VFX on these new siege abilities that we've put together, get the new sounds updated on them, and get better animation pass on some things. And in different ways we're kind of testing things. We've said that, like, particularly the animation is going to be obviously a thing that we keep working on because it's very important to us, not only in the system but in the assets. So one of the things we've been doing is we're kind of on our 3rd iteration of testing for different timings for the animations and different ways of conveying the combat. So right now we've got some new animations, some new VFX, some new SFX that I was just testing with DB this morning, and they're all kind of starting to gel together. First item actually is the Scorpion Bolt models. So last week, John did a really quick pass, created I think 16 Scorpion Bolt models because he said he needed to fill time in the stream. So he was like, "You only need 6? I could do 16." So those got handed off to me. I did a real quick LOD pass and tags and set those up so that now when you pick your Scorpion abilities, you'll actually fire a very specific Scorpion model. The cool thing is this fixed some issues that we were seeing with VFX and SFX not playing correctly, which I think was probably due to the projectile flying out and then LODing out, so then all the VFX and SFX were disappearing or something like that. The other thing I've started working on, or actually I'm going to work on after this stream, is we're taking the SNS map right now is a very simple landing area and then another area separated by water with a very big plot in it for a huge castle that Ben made a really quick mock-up of, and some spawn points around it. In lieu of other tech that we are going to do that will allow us to spawn multiple scenarios on in a zone.
Or also have more people in a zone.
To have more people in the zone and to reuse the same zone.
Right. We're sort of hitting that from 2 fronts, which is right now there's a smaller number of people that can be in any given scenario.
Right.
So we've got tech coming very soon that will increase the number of people we can put into a single scenario.
Right.
And we're also making it so that we can have multiple scenarios concurrently going on.
Yeah. So what the guys want to test is the number of people hitting the system. Needs to be expanded in the short term, so I'm going to take the map that we've got, divide it up into 5 segments, put 5 different plots, 5 different sets of spawn points on there so that we can run multiple scenarios within the same zone at the same time, in lieu of, like you said, other tech. I'm also going to try and do a really quick art pass on it, just so that if we end up with IT in it next week, you guys aren't just looking at terrain. And this will be, like I said, simple art, not a design pass or anything like that, to just so you guys have some trees and rocks and stuff to jump around on. Next thing, VFX. We added in the realm-specific torches that we modeled a while ago. We waited to do the VFX due to some changes that Andrew did that broke some things. So Mike did new VFX for those. He's also completed the, almost completed the rough pass on the Blackguard abilities, archer abilities, sorry. These were like rough before. I said rough twice. Mike completed a improvement pass, let's put it that way, on the Blackguard's abilities that had a lot of shared VFX assets and stuff, and we actually started, instead of using a generic debuff, he's working on like a VFX of a rope coiling around your feet and fun stuff like that. Polearm animations, Sandra's going through, and there was a big pop between travel animations and combat animations. It was there because there was a supposition, which seems to be my keyword for this week, that there was a blending thing that would fix it. That didn't come through, so I asked Sandra just to go through and spend a few days updating the animations so that they look better. Art animation, Scott's got several things he's been working on. Updating the race and genders with their new emote sets. This is mainly just a spreadsheet task to go through all the characters and add specific lines and tags into every anim set. An anim set being, I'm carrying a polearm, I'm standing in travel stance, I'm carrying an axe and a dagger, whatever they are. He's also gone through and added the one-handed weapon combo stuff we were working on a little while ago, maybe a month ago. We had just done testing on the Arthurian male, and now he and Sandra, I mean, I think right now are testing, updating all the other characters to use that. There's still some older animations in on the daggers and the spears. We might just take those out for the near term until we get a better pass on the art. We've updated Sandra's longbow animations to include the new arrow pivots, so you're not stabbing yourself in the face with your arrows. One thing that was bothering me was some of the hand models for the nude models. So a while ago, John did a really quick pass on a much improved hand. And that literally means we have to do the hand and we have to do the glove. They're two separate models. So John handed off some new skins and hands so that the male characters all have updated hand geometry, which just looks better. And it's a lower priority thing, but while we were kind of working on different, as you can see, there were a lot of things being worked on. I just poked Scott and said, okay, let's finish that up. So, was there anything else? That's 4 things, right?
That
okay.
was the animation stuff, yeah.
All right. Next up, UI art icons. So I handed James off, I don't know, 4 lists of icons for the new bows, the new siege abilities, the unique realm torches, the new archery siege abilities, the emotes, and there might be one other thing. I put a screenshot
Bolts.
in the update. Bolts, yeah, right. So a whole bunch of icons that he's just been delved into this week. Concept art. So Michelle's been heads down. I've barely heard her mutter much. She's been working on some TDD boat concepts, which are just awesome that we're not showing yet, but probably next week. Like, we were looking at boats this week, and I don't know if you should look over her shoulder and take advantage of the fact you're here and look over her shoulder, because they were really cool ideas. This is also following up. I can jump a little bit here. Dion's been working on the Arthurian boat model, which we put concept art in, I think, last week or the week before. We'll have a work in progress modeling shot of that today. We're paying special attention to like little details, you know, the rigging and things like that, which me personally, I know that if I go in and see some game art and I can tell that the artist paid attention to it, the smaller details, it means a lot. Plus, if you're kind of a history buff, you'll notice some like, oh, they actually really did pay attention to how these things were built.
Just a quick note, she did show her work on TDD boat concepts in her stream.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, so check that stream out if you want to see what she was working on. I love the ideas. The other thing which we'll have in the update, was female TDD clothing concepts. So those are also really pretty too. Okay, male generic clothing. So John has been working on 3 sets of male generic clothing. That's gloves, shirt, belt, pants, and boots. He did the low poly phase and UVing this week. It's a fairly time-intensive part of this. It's the less sexy thing, so I'm not going to throw any screenshots in. One of the things Michelle and I have been working with him is on improving the character silhouettes so they're a little less tubular and make better use of their geometry. One thing we're doing is adding a little bit more geo to the characters just so that we can kind of pop their silhouettes and have some more ins and outs in their lines. If you're an artist, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you're an engineer like Tim, you probably think I'm crazy.
You skipped number 16, I think.
No, I just mentioned that with Dion.
He sort of segued from
I segued from it into it.
Okay.
The last one is SFX for the siege abilities. DB has done this great pass on the arrow siege abilities. Each archer class has 2 new siege abilities, and then everybody shares the scorpion siege abilities. They're a great way for us to test not only the VFX tech, but also the SFX tech, so we've just been kind of trying a bunch of different things. I tested some with DB. DB, personally, thank you. Like, he does a really great job, just heads down, makes a bunch of stuff. Literally, if you're, he fired the corrosive acid bolt past my head, and it made this really great crackling, burning, acidic sound. And if you actually go over here, farther away from where it passes, it has a different sound. And it's just that nice attention to detail, which I totally appreciate. So some of this is all kind of coming together, and you'll see it in those playtests when we can get you guys in there. The other thing that we're going to do is one of the more important parts of Dragon Circle and SNS is being able to lock players into certain items, abilities, and classes. That really is going to help us a lot in testing and getting metrics on things in many different ways, and we can create fun gameplay around it and reward players for coming in and having fun. So that's why I've got Mike starting to kind of move into the other archer abilities, because our first focus is siege. So we're going to have a lot of guys shooting at things back and forth, and scorpions and up on the walls launching stuff. So that was all my words. I'd like to do a shorter Q&A. Tim and I are both just very busy, and Mark is very busy right now. That's why we're over here. But I want to make sure you guys get, some questions answered. I'm sure that since we've just started talking about SNS, there's plenty of stuff around that. If you've got design questions, leave those till we get Ben on the stream. But for just process and art and some of the tech, feel free.
All right, so tech questions for Tim, art questions for Tyler. Let's go. Oh, do you want to go till 4:50?
Can we do like 15 minutes? And we usually do, what, a half hour? And Mark sometimes does an hour.
Yeah, but that was a really long.
Yeah, okay. I mean.
So, I'm just wondering. Okay. Paladin Brewer asks, what tea are you drinking, Tyler?
Oh, peppermint. It's the mint medley from Bigelow, one of my favorites. It's good for your belly.
I just ordered more of that. Odelvik asks, in battle, how many surrounding sounds from nearby attacks will the player hear that aren't initiated or directed at the player?
Got it.
I.e. nearby players being shot by arrows, etc. Will there be a range or volume element to what the player hears?
So the answer to this isn't really going to be the best answer because we don't know yet. Performance issues around sound are going to be one of the things we're going to be looking at with the SNS playtest. DB already has a good mindset around this for doing different things, like there's a battle over there, we can play kind of a generic battle sound. Anything directed at you get prioritized. There's a lot more work that kind of needs to be done around that, and it's partially performance and part gameplay. There was a really sexy it was a talk that I think DB went to for some of the sound design for Overwatch, and he picked up a lot of good feedback on how they did their sound design. So numbers and everything, no clue yet, but the goal is going to be, it's going to be hard. Obviously we don't do anything easy.
Right.
Here.
The goal is to get a performant client
Right.
and communicate all the information to you to make appropriate battle-worthy decisions.
Right, and some of this we're going to have to come up with some creative things down the road of, okay, I don't need to know this. Obviously, we can cull that out or lower its intensity or just not send it to you. But other smarter things, like there's how many guys over there does it take to be a battle, that we actually put all their sounds together, and then of those things that are going on in that battle, which ones are going to be most relevant to you is going to be something that's probably going to come out of playtesting. If your friend is within a certain range and he's making his death grunt or something and you're a healer, we probably need to let you know, but that's going to be a lot of testing.
Paladin Brewer asks, as far as clothing and armor goes, how many pieces do we believe we will have for Beta 1? Do we expect tons of variation for live?
Oh, yeah. Right now, the goal from the art team was to make sure that everybody... We originally, I think, started out with okay, we'll just make one set of clothing for everybody, one for each realm. We expanded that when we had some more time into a light, medium, and heavy set, which worked with the archetypes that we're using for Beta 1 to start. So each realm has 3 sets, light, medium, and heavy. So there's 9 sets right now. There's these more generic sets, which we're going to use for character creation and for NPCs that we're working on, and those will later be given to players. Just for right now, they're kind of easier for us as devs doing testing, and for you guys to be like, that guy's an NPC, and those are players. The other thing is we have other tech that is planned now that we kind of understand the art pipeline and where our budgets are and everything, for doing tinting, crafting type of changes. The elements that you create, the elements you use to create your gear will change the look of it. There's a lot of variation that's going to come out of that as well, but it's going to be a small subset just for testing.
Darlgon says, this may be more of a DB question, but will sound decrease gradually by distance, or just be like on you, close, far away?
TBD?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's not worth me trying to answer it. I mean, I could, but I don't. It might be more specific.
We're going to have to get DB on here sometime. Odelvik asks, will players benefit from close-by group members' torches to the same amount as holding their own torch?
The torch is like any other light. Right now, one of the tech we've got sitting that we'll need to do to make torches a little bit better, just visually, is better fall-off controls. But if you're standing next to your buddy, I mean,
it depends on how much light is around you,
Yeah.
and how much light is where you're looking. So
yeah, I mean, it's literally just a light in the game. It's like if the guy next to you was holding a torch. There's not much. I don't know that I can answer too much about that.
Brand says, I don't have a question. I just want to give you a thumbs up. It all sounds exciting.
Yeah, it is. We're doing a hard project. We're trying to do a project that people will want to play, and we're trying to do a lot of really cool things with it. So, sorry it's taken a while. We'll get you guys in.
I don't think we're ready to answer that right now, Briar C. Brand. General question. With the dragon circles being somewhat lore-driven, any chance for more dragon info to be revealed from the process of playing in the dragon circles or testing it?
I think Mark said yes.
Mark said yes to that last
Yeah, I
week.
mean, a lot of it was very lore-heavy. We haven't shown anybody the lore. I think it's a fairly expansive bit of lore. And geez, I can't remember how much is in there about dragons specifically. But I think Mark said something to the effect of yes, more info.
Wait and see. All right. We've actually come to the end of the questions for now.
slackers.
Briar C did ask, during your own playtests, has either of you had trouble shooting? Does it feel rewarding and fun to you?
That's mostly all I've been playing is the archer,
Yeah.
and I killed Christina pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually... So, I've been doing it from the perspective of I want to hear and test the abilities that I've been very focused on with Mike and DB and Scott and Sandra, which are archery abilities. So, I've been going in there just to get the specific components built. I think out of playtesting, I mean, I love it. I immediately have feedback of like, oh, the thunk when it hits the guy feels good, or I like the fact that I'm raining down hot death even if I'm missing the person. And we have enough in the ability system and in the components to be able to pick like an AoE hit or a direct hit or speed changes. Honestly, I haven't even gotten to that point in testing where I'm actually kind of really caring about the abilities I build. So honestly, I'm just waiting for more feedback as to move a little bit farther along so that I'm kind of, you know, right now during the playtest, I usually go, oh crap, I didn't make any abilities. I'll just hope for the best. And then I got in and all the NPCs came after me.
Choo-choo, motherfucker.
Yeah.
5-minute warning, folks.
I can say that since it is one of my focuses right now for archery, I'm kind of focused on it looking and feeling good. I've enjoyed it so far, and some of the animations that Sandra and Scott have been working on, they look really good, and you know.
I totally picked, like, for one of the tests, like, which ability I was going to use based on which animation it played.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, there's like that one, like, sort of lower down, like, half draw.
Yeah.
That felt really good. So
Yeah,
I just
one of the
used that
things-
ability for like a whole playtest.
Yeah,
because it looked cool.
there's 3 things we did recently that I just wanted to experiment with the artists, with the design, with timing and VFX. Was we made short bow and long bow animations, so they both have different poses. We, the short bow actually kind of holds it slightly off to the side. I say she because a lot of the video reference we had was this amazing girl in a gym, and she'd go whoosh, and kind of like overhand knock it. But with the longbow, that's more of an upright, to the side hit. And I really focused with Sandra on just these really nice poses that the characters were hitting. And then she made another one, which I asked Ben. I just was like, I want to test some tech. So she did this one that has this long draw with a little shake, and what I want to do is put a little bit of a poof, kind of an impact when the player launches like a stronger attack, and play some dust around their feet. So like the minute I get those pieces in from Mike, I know that pose and everything looks good, so I'm going to want to be using that siege ability.
Mia Tullis asks, what tools are you using for profiling server and client side?
All of them that we can get our hands on. So our client is built in C++, and so when we're doing our own builds, like Visual Studio's got a pretty solid profiler built in there. Brad advocated for telemetry for a long time, and we picked that up, and the guys are loving that. We've got some in-house tools that we've built for our custom allocator. So there's Wise comes with its own profiling suite. So there's a bunch of different tools we use there. And then again, the server is built, it's a mix of C# and C++, so some of the C++ tools apply there. Visual Studio, again, their profiler is pretty good. We've got some third-party profilers that are just, .NET-esque profilers that we use. Matt built us an in-house one a little while back for tracking garbage collection and allocations on the managed heap. So there's just a whole plethora of tools that we use just depending on what specific thing we're trying to track. Also, we have a crap ton of just metrics that we get through like StatsD and Grafana that we use for general like server and client health. Mark Hernandez is a strong advocate of like if you can't debug a problem through metrics, then you don't have the right metrics. So we're always working towards that goal.
Paladin Brewer asks, you were talking about sound effects. Do you think sound will play a large part in dark forest hunting?
Oh,
such as hearing footsteps, or is it just there for show?
No. I mean, we really are trying to keep people. It's a hard thing to do, but we're all really trying to get like a what you see, and in this case, what you hear is what you get type of game. That you don't need a million things on your UI to actually play the game. We've talked about a lot of fun ideas related to sound and stuff, and we'll get there. It's just not immediately. Right now, it's putting all the tech together to get all the abilities really working, finding bugs and things like that. Once we get that, then we can add in other fun things. But we definitely want people to, we were talking about how there was one game that had a tree or a rock or something that kind of looked like a player in it, and people were doing like little, jumps like to shoot the thing, and I was like, oh, we should totally do that. Make a bush that looks like a person, so that at the right angle, people are walking through the forest and freaking out.
Well, yeah, that's. I feel like a lot of games, especially MMOs, like sound is underrepresented and underutilized, and like sound is one of the big things that takes a game just from like I'm using an ability in a game to some end to making it like this visceral experience, and so I'm always pushing to get better sound in there.
And finally, Brand wants to know, who would win in a 1v1, Tyler or Tim?
Tim. Yeah.
Yeah,
Tim,
I just use the admin cans and slash.
No. Tim takes the time to usually figure out the abilities. Tim goes from more of a min-max perspective, while I go for the fun perspective, so I will probably lose in that case.
You're saying you outfund me?
Yeah.
Now we got to figure out metrics on that.
Yeah, the funny part is we got to get you back to doing. Remember when we were doing the play testing for the previous versions, and you'd be sitting there. Tim's commentary when he's playing is absolutely hilarious. So we need to get you. I forgot all about that.
I got to bring Corey back.
Oh, why?
Because me and him always ran the Lucher Pan duo that would harass everybody.
Yeah, Tim's hilarious. Okay,
100%.
So we need to do the gift.
Yeah, let me grab Michelle.
I'll get out of the way.
Okay.
Should I
Thanks,
get out of the way
everyone.
too?
I don't know.
Or maybe she can just sit in
One
the
of you
middle.
can stay.
Hey, sexy lady. Oh man, he
Alright.
brings gifts.
Well, here, somebody open up the box.
There's more in there.
Yeah, well, here,
You
give
can
me
have
one.
that one.
These gummy bears were sent by Ludovic, and Ludovic sends the message to Michelle, be careful what you wish for, because apparently you asked on stream for gummy bears or something.
I don't remember, but I'm so glad I did.
I wish I had $1 million.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying. It was like, what should I ask for on a stream?
Thank you so much. These are awesome.
Yeah, we've already gone through a bag, but there's 3 of them.
So many.
Yeah, they actually showed up on Halloween, and I did this because usually we open these up on the stream, and I was like, this sounds like candy.
Well,
Good
the
candy.
timing was perfect. So, yes, thank you very much, Ludovic.
Thank you.
Joseph.
All right.
Okay, so we'll get an update out to you guys. Like I said, no SNS playtesting yet, but we're working towards that.
Okay. Yeah, keep an eye out for the update.
Thank you all.
See you later.
Such a